everybody, and welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb, the place where growth minded professionals come to hear the latest information on bullies, narcissists, micromanagers, how to keep your employees happy, engaged, and how do they do that? Because they learn from thought provoking guests that I have on the show. I'm Joyce Weiss, your host, communication coach and queen of conflict resolution. And I work with HR professionals. So they send their direct reports to me and I coach them how to improve relationships, reduce stress. And how do I do this, you may ask? Well, they transform from not knowing how to start a conversation all the way to feeling confident using their voice without losing their cool. And stay tuned towards the end of the program where I'm going to be sharing a brand new assessment that I started using that'll help you reduce your stress when you're in the middle of a tough conversation. Well, today I'm beyond excited to interview my friend and colleague. Actually, it's going to be more of a conversation, Bob Thomas, and I'd like you to meet him in the introduction. Bob Thomas is the Chief Operating Officer for the Michigan Chamber of Commerce and Executive Director for the Michigan Chamber Foundation. Bob is a lifelong learner and takes pride in improving his relationships at work and home. He's a strong proponent of monitoring and enhancing workplace culture and credits his team at the Chamber for making it a great place to work for over 25 years. I'm excited to showcase my friend and colleague, Bob Thomas. Here's a fun fact about Bob. He's a recovering Zumba instructor. Welcome to the show, Bob. Hey.
Thanks, Joyce.
Bring a little bit of Hollywood in your life, my guess, my dear friend. So I got to jump right into the Zumba. I mean, I've seen in the past, how you were really into this, and just tell us a little bit about that.
Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, right?
Yes, it's true. It's all good.
No, Zumba has been great. It was kind of this hobby side gig I did for a little while before COVID. COVID has since squashed it a little bit for me because it was hard to do virtually. But that was one of my big stress relievers, and definitely a place where I connected with people on a totally different level. And I didn't have to speak. I didn't have to use language other than music. And because we use world music all the time, you don't necessarily know what they're saying all the time. But the way that the beats feel and the way I could connect with people was just awesome. And it was a great stress reliever. And I still love to do it. I'm just not able to teach it anymore. So that's the recovering part.
Yes.
And I know it's kind of the big fad that's come and gone and stuff, but I've been dancing for over 40 years. And so Zumba is where it is right now, and who knows where it will take me next? Maybe tap dancing.
You're not obvious. You're not done with that. No, in the introduction, and these are your words, they're not mine. You said that you credit your team at the Chamber for making it a great place to work for over 25 years. So what do you and your leaders do to make it the best place to work at for over 25 years, Mr.?
Well, number one, the reason I credit my team is I'm a natural introvert. I'm an introvert extrovert, but my natural state is introvert. And so if it was left up to me, I could hang out in my office and just pound away on the computer all day and just answer everybody over email. But the team here at the Chamber really pushes the culture forward, and it's through thoughtful conversations and an intent to want to do better and to be better and to be a great place to work that they really drive all of those decisions. And it certainly pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I've been here for 25 years because I've had great mentors. I've had great people to work with. The leadership here aspires to do better, to be better, and to be a leader. And that makes it really fun to be here. And then outside of that, what we've done really through COVID is through intentional conversations, trying to find ways that we can empower each other, how we can create more autonomy, more responsibility. And people really thrive in that when you give them things that they can be in charge of and that they excel at, and really finding what people,
Mm.
what their passion points are at work, and then giving them the freedom to be themselves both here and at home. And so we've just created really an outstanding culture here now where we're more productive than we've ever been, with more flexibility and more um, authenticity, I guess, for
Ah,
everybody to be who they are.
those are my favorite words. So could you give us an example of how you were able to empower someone? Because that is, my secret sauce is that if your people aren't heard or they don't feel welcome and included, you're not going to have a good culture. So obviously your team does, they feel included and heard. So can you give us a specific, idea that comes to mind? An example, let's say.
Sure. So, I mean, first was you have to serve the organization. So we worked through a process called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. And it was started here in Michigan, out of the Detroit area, which I'm really proud about. It's now a worldwide phenomenon. But one of the tenets there is to create an accountability chart. And the accountability chart assigns roles and responsibilities for what processes need to get done within the organization. It's not your org chart. It's not whom reports to whom. It's what needs to get done and in what order and how. And once we figured those things out, then you talk to your staff and you tell them this is what the job is, this is what the role is, this is what you're responsible for, accountable to.
Mhm.
Do you get it? Do you want it? And do you have capacity to do it? And if you say no to any of those things, that's fine. It's not an indictment against you about whether or not you're a good person. It just means that you don't fit that particular seat. And so, not everybody said yes to all of those things, and those folks aren't necessarily here at the chamber anymore. But as we have hired new people, or as we've evolved the organization, if there's a seat here that you can say yes to all three of those things, we find that you're going to be very successful and empowered because you know exactly what's expected of you, and we know that you know how to do it or where the training is to get it done better. And so I think that's one example of where once you know what's expected of you, it's very clear and you're accountable to it, you're going to do a great job at it because you care.
Absolutely. I love that. And I actually have more questions about what you're doing at the chamber, because this is like eating chocolate to me when I have a thought-provoking leader on talking about that. We talked about, and the title of this was how to de-stress during the holidays. So we better get to that before, and if we have time, I want to pick your brain about the other stuff.
Well, there's a part two, right?
Yeah, well, there will be. Don't, to be careful what you ask for, right? There will be. So, how do you balance work-life pressures during the holidays?
This is my last day in the office until after the new year, and so I'm feeling the pressure for sure. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure people know is you don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to get it all done. You don't have to check everything off your list. That's certainly an ideal place to be,
Mhm.
but more importantly is prioritize what's important and be present. If you can show up and and be yourself, it takes a lot of stress out of trying to be perfect.
Mhm.
That's my number one advice there is as we're getting ready for the holidays here, it's, know what you're capable of, what your capacity is, and fill it to that brim, but don't overflow it. Don't try and be more or get more done than you can. Everybody's out running, trying to figure out gifts, attend all the parties.
Right.
They want to be the perfect guest or they want to be the perfect host. And you don't have to be perfect. Just be present.
Oh, a matter of fact, you and I were talking in the green room about a quote that you just heard this week about that.
Yeah,
So
it,
that,
it
I mean,
really struck me.
but say it again, even though you just did. But repeat what you just said, because I have a feeling people who watch the show, whether it's live or later on, many of us high achievers. You notice I didn't say overachiever. overachiever is negative. High achiever has its price too. There's a little bit of perfectionism in there. I know it. I'm still working on it. Please say that again, because that is huge.
Yeah, I love it too. I really love when I can achieve a lot of things, but I also need to know when good is good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. So it's being perfect, not being present. Um, my personal example is we threw a holiday party a couple weeks ago, and I had a very long list of things to do, high expectations. I just moved to a new house, wanted to show off to all my friends and really share our home and kind of where we are right now. And uh, the oven went out the day before. The electrician came over and rehooked the breakers so that things didn't work. I couldn't bake. We couldn't get the food done. We were running short on time and just feeling really high stress, right? But the lesson was be present, don't be perfect. So embrace the challenge. We had an alternative. Thank goodness we have great neighbors, and we had a second oven, so we figured that out. It was cold outside, so we could figure out, how to manage all the drinks and ice and all that kind of stuff. But the intent of the party was to get all of our friends together and to share our time with each other. It wasn't to have a perfect dinner. It wasn't to have, a Martha Stewart looking spread. It was,
Mhm.
we're just here to share each other's time and then wanted to enjoy it. And I can tell you, it was a blast because you embrace the chaos to some degree. You handle what you can handle, and the rest you just gotta let it go.
Okay, this is personal, but I got to ask it. So already, you're going to say, "Why did I say yes to this?" How? When during the time when all of this stress was happening, when did you decide that being present is more important than being perfect? Were you still in the perfect mode for a little while, or did you just get right in there?
And perfect is the plan. When you make your list and you're accounting for who's going to show up, who's on the list, what food do you want to serve, what do you want the decorations to look like, what time is this going to happen? You've got perfect in your head, right? So
Yes.
you go for that. But your very first step, when and it's kind of funny because my invitation went out with the wrong date.
There
I
was an
trans
omen there. There was a little omen. Ooh,
It
ooh.
was, and so we corrected it really quickly. But that was my first cue. This is going to be
Mhm.
fun. It's not going to be perfect. And then we did really good job the week going into it. Things seemed to be on track. But then when the oven went out and we had all these other things going on, it was like, all right, what are we going to do? We're going to pivot. We're going to have fun. I was stressed for sure. I
Mhm.
definitely was sweating, but I knew it was all going to be okay if you understand again what is the intent of what we're trying to do. The intent is to have fun, was not to have a perfect spread. Now, if I was on
Yes.
the block here where I needed to demonstrate my culinary skills on
Mhm.
TV or something, that would be a different story. But even then, I'd probably say, hey, the real life isn't perfect all the time. Just
But
make it
it
work.
wouldn't be a knowing you and hearing you now, it wouldn't be a different story because I'm going to pull you a little bit and pull you. That's great, Joyce. But pull out of you a little bit of let's transform that because right now we may have people saying, yeah, that's great. It's his story for his personal life, but how do you make this at work when you know your boss needs this and your board of directors need this and it's not perfect and all these mistakes. So how can you transform your I'm going to say humorous because it is kind of funny how it ended, your situation from home to work and not make that a stress for your people?
Oh,
What would you
absolutely.
say? I mean, you've they've got their boss, they come to you, you may be their boss, but maybe it's a client, of the chamber that they're dealing with and things aren't perfect. So would you tell them the same thing?
For sure. I mean, we're in high pressure situations all the time. We've got deadlines
Absolutely.
at the chamber. We're in front of people, and we're going to make mistakes. But, first I ask people to prepare, go in to a scenario with your best foot forward, plan for perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Rehearse, make your accommodations. But in the thick of it, if you've done your homework and you have prepared, you're going to know where you can let things go or where you need to apply some pressure. And you can fill some gaps. And an example that I've got there is, we've had a board meeting where we're trying to do it hybrid. Technology wasn't working in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
Speakers didn't show up on time. We have technical issues. There was a typo in the board book, a litany of a whole bunch of things, and they're all relatively minor. Again, if you start thinking about what is the intent for us to have at the board
Mm-hmm.
meeting, is to make some important decisions and to get all of our leadership around the same table, facing in the same direction. Those things are important, and we don't want to repeat them, so we'll figure out how
Mm-hmm.
to avoid that next time. But in the moment, you know, you explain them and you roll with it. And, I think people understand that. They've been in similar situations where technology didn't work or where they've made an error, and they're forgiving if you acknowledge it, be honest about
Mm-hmm.
where you're at, and then, try and do better next time. But that's, you can't stress out about, don't sweat the small stuff. If you remember what the bigger picture is and what the main intent is of what you're trying to accomplish to begin with.
Well, you've just given me a gift, and I love that you plan for perfect, and then part of that plan is what happens if things don't go like you wanted, and what is the intent. So I'm going to do a very quick personal story, and then I got about 1,400 other questions that I want to discuss with you. So there I was, my first live stream a few months ago, and I had my guest on, and we were really rocking, and it was going well. I forgot. I didn't know that you had to hit the go live twice. So it wasn't recorded live. And at first I was going afterwards because I didn't know at the time. Thank you. So the interview was great. But afterwards I said, oh, great. My first time. What an idiot. And then I stopped. I said, technology, we know, just like what you just said. So I went live right afterwards. I figured, wow, I have to push the button twice. And I said, listen, for those of you who try to get on, this is what happened. Then once the video was recorded, I put it on. And I laughed at myself. But Bob, we've got to get to a point at work or at home that laughing at ourselves, I mean, especially with your team, it makes you real. It's, versus the boss, the leaders, or anybody who you work with or live with. Oh, they're perfect. And they're ready to judge us when we're not.
Hey, I'm the first guy who wants everything to be perfect. Growing up, I was that guy who always had the list, and I would get super stressed out if it didn't quite match. And you don't want to blow everything off. You don't want to be a clown or people think that you're not taking it seriously. But in the moment, it's not a life or death situation in most cases. And people do. I think they acknowledge that you're real. Stuff happens.
Yes.
And you're doing your best, and you plan for the worst. You plan for the best and you make accommodations for the worst. It's easier to laugh at yourself when you don't take it too seriously.
Absolutely. And that goes into my next, because we were talking about this during one of our regular conversations, is that filling the buckets and practicing self-care is your middle name. So how do you encourage your team to do that when they're under such stress? And not all the time, I realize that. I mean, life isn't always like that. But self-care, it's the new N word. Retention, self-care, mindfulness, all of this good stuff. What do you do?
It's prioritizing what's important, right? I talk with my team all the time. Your first priority is your family, your kids, your own mental health. And if you're not able to show up in a healthy place, then how can I expect you to do a great job? So, I mean, that's the first thing. Take care of yourself. We have processes and things built into our systems to make sure that can happen. And then, if things get so out of whack where you're not able to show up anymore, we'll talk about it then. But if you're, again, not able to take care of yourself, then how could I expect you to do a great job and take care of our company? So that's my first lesson to everybody is you've got to practice the self-care, and that reduces your stress. I can see when somebody's at work and they're freaking out that there's something else that's going on, because the thing that they're freaking out about is probably not that big of a deal when it's here at the office. If it's, my computer's not working, or I can't quite get this process right, or I just can't deal with this other person. There's something else that's underneath that layer that they're dealing with
Absolutely.
that we have no idea. And so my first question usually is like, are you okay? Like, do you need a minute? Do you need to go check out? Do you need to practice some self-care, so that you can come back and be at a level set? We're much more calmer when we're in a healthy place, than to freak out about stuff, right?
And yes, right. And right, exclamation point. And you said the secret. I mean, I've got all kinds of, I'm creating a list of good questions to ask when people are in conflict. Obviously, I'm going to have a better title than that. And one of them is just ask, are you okay? What can I do to help you? People, employees would love to have someone ask them this. Many of my coaching clients say they are not asked that, and it's big things going on at work, at home, and they don't want to share it necessarily. Just to come out and say, oh, my mom's in the hospital or whatever it is. But they said, if my leader just asked me, I would share. That's
Yeah.
all they did.
And they don't need to share, but I want them to know that I care, that you're okay. And
Yes.
and the new trend is it's okay not to be okay, and to own it. If you're not
Yes.
okay, then let's at least acknowledge it and figure out how we're going to deal with it. And we'll cover for you, or we need to make a different accommodation, or we need to give you some time to go take care of it. But it's okay to be honest about it. Your personal care is much more important than any job, task, event. The show goes on.
And you see why I invited Bob Thomas to be a guest, because Bob, there are many leaders who aren't watching this who need to, because they need to ask these questions. And I love it when you said, when you see me writing, I'm not writing in my journal. It's okay not to be okay. Could be a name of your book that you're going to be writing. That could be, it's okay just to even say that. I mean, with all the mental illness going on, and I mean, you don't have to label whether you're on medicine, you're not. I mean, I don't know if you know Twitch. He just committed suicide. He's, from on, So You Think You Can Dance, 40 years old, happy-go-lucky, married, 3 kids. We don't know what's going on and especially with us, we've got to figure out how to de-stress by talking to someone. So, Bob, I'm just loving this conversation, what you do.
And so when you're talking about the holidays and the story that you just shared, this is a very stressful time for a lot of people at home, right? And work is going to exacerbate it if you're feeling all the pressure there too. And I think what I want people to know is, especially during this time when we're feeling high pressure at home, high pressure at work, it's the end of the year. So there's a lot of goals that are going to probably go unmet. And people are feeling that too, is to put things in perspective and take one day at a time, and to be present, and to be thoughtful about where you're at, what you can handle, what you can control, and manage that. And if you can't control it, let it go, and figure out a way around it. And then, come back the next day and reset. And that's the big thing too with resolutions. We're going to be setting goals here at the chamber for the next year. And goals are different ways for people to do work in the upcoming year. And I don't want them to think about, I've got to change everything for the whole year all at once. I want you to think about what are the incremental things you can come back and control one day at a time that ultimately add up to the change that you want to see at the end of the year. So it's not thinking I want to lose 40 pounds or I need to make, 100 sales. It's what do I need to do this next day? I need to walk a
Yes.
little bit better. I need to make more telephone calls, or I need to connect with these
Mhm.
other people, so that over time those things add up and you'll achieve your goal at the end through the things that you can control.
Yes, and that's the other book you're going to write. The things you can't control, and let the things go that you can't. I mean, so if you just described how you can set yourself up for success in the new year. And I love the setting goals. You're right. Losing 50 pounds versus what's one thing that I can do today. I mean, I'm addicted to work. No, excuse me. I'm addicted to learning. I'm not addicted to work like I used to think I was, Bob. I'm addicted to learning. Knowing that I have to take off something from my plate in order to do some self care. So every day, instead of putting the 5 coaching tapes that um, videos that I'm going to be watching, I'm going to say, what is one that I could watch and put the self care next to it? So I love your one step at a time.
So what are you
So
going to do for self-care for the next year?
um, walk more, because in the summer, every day I'm on my bike, I'm walking outside because I live in Michigan like you do. And in the winter, I just discovered. I wish you recorded your Zumba classes. I just discovered on Zumba on YouTube instructors who teach walking. But I don't mean in one place. I mean, it's your arms are going and you got people all different weights. And so you don't think, oh, you're not comparing yourself to that gorgeous woman or man. And 15 minutes times 2, it's 30 minutes. It's only 2 miles, but you're not just walking. It's fun. So Bob, I'm going to add that
That's a great one.
because I have all my stuff inside. It just doesn't do it. It just I need movement is my middle name. So thank you for asking. So
Yeah.
that is what take off a video that I'm going to watch and add a walk for a half hour. Gee. So thank
You'll
you.
feel refreshed.
I do already. It's talking about it. So would you believe that we're done? I mean, if there's one thing that you would like to recap, and it could be something that you already said, how to de-stress during the holidays, what would that one job be?
Probably one that I didn't mention is know when you need to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help. If it's as small as, hey, I need help with this chore, emptying the dishwasher, or could you put this in the mailbox for me, or reaching out to a resource, and finding somebody you can talk to, or helping to solve a problem. And that's
Yes.
where I love our conversations, Joyce, because every time I talk to you, it's has so many resources or ways for people to reconnect and to solve their
You.
problem, whether or not it's that you did it or you just help them talk out loud. That's a great example. So I mean, that would be my one tip: is know when to ask for help, know when that you've got to go outside of yourself in order to get something done, and
Thank you.
you feel better.
That's perfect. Well, will you do part 2, please? Will you come
Absolutely.
back? Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well, listen, I want you to go before the snow comes because we're getting, who knows, it could be an inch, it could be 24 inches, right? Well, thank you very much, Bob, for being part of the show. I treasure our relationship. It's gone. I mean, you've been one of my clients for, I think, at the beginning of my career. So
Oh,
we
wow.
go.
Well, we're definitely coming up on 20 years. I can tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. So continue doing your good stuff. And this isn't goodbye for sure, but you're going to come back.
Absolutely. And
Good.
look forward to your assessment.
Thanks. So I hope you enjoy yourself as much as I did. Bob, the good news is I'm going to take this 30-minute interview and I'm going to make clips. Probably there are going to be 6 different clips I'm going to be putting out on social media. So you'll be able to watch the whole thing or even just a few minutes per clip. So we're going to continue this. And at the beginning of the show, I said I was going to tell you about a conflict dynamic profile. This is just something, if you wanted to contact me, and I'm going to give my contact information in just a couple seconds. If you want to figure out how to stop those triggers, stop making other people feel defensive, or if you want to start voicing your opinion instead of holding things in, call me. It is such a wonderful, I've never used a profile in my career that I've enjoyed as much. And I don't care about me, my clients. And we're going to talk about the Weiss Communication Success Plan when we talk. And it's going to be whether making conversation safe, how to start the tough conversation. And this is one of my clients' favorite, verbal Aikido, how to stop pushing others and how you pull back so you don't feel pushed. So email, send me an email, joyce@joyceweiss.com. My phone number, 248-681-5831. Subscribe at my YouTube channel. Easy for you to say, right? And for those of you who want to be a guest on my show, Kick Conflict to the Curb, all you have to do is contact me and we can have a quick conversation. And it's going to be great because I'm always looking for thought-provoking leaders. So I am going to end like I always end every single video. Until next time, remember, you get what you tolerate. Thanks for watching.
Pick